Well, hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Fertility Rewire podcast. Now, I'm releasing this episode, recorded in December, but also released in December in the run-up to Christmas. And I'm very much aware of how different Christmas is anyway at the moment, but also how Christmas can be a huge trigger when you are experiencing fertility issues, how your mind can take you to a place of how things should be, how things aren't, and the huge emotion that this brings up. And so what I wanted to talk about and recognize really in this episode is the real difference between sadness and something deeper, and how that sadness or something deeper can affect you on a huge scale, and actually start to recognize that this is traumatic, or it can be traumatic, and start to uncover, to recognize what you're experiencing and to start to uncover how we can perhaps move forwards. I really hope you enjoy the episode, and as usual, if you have any questions or comments, then you can get in touch. I'm at cat@fertilityrewire.com. You can find me on Instagram as well, and on Facebook actually. All right, I hope you enjoy. Take care. Hello and welcome to the Fertility Rewire podcast, a place for information and discussion around topics relevant to fertility. I'm your host, Cat Stevens. I'm a fertility coach and founder of the Fertility Rewire program. And I'm passionate about people being given sufficient information to enhance their own fertility awareness. It's completely normal to feel sadness when you're dealing with not getting pregnant, when you're dealing with fertility issues and everything that you're facing in your quest in many ways, it seems, to become a parent, to become a family, to become parents. And you might hit the blues, when your period comes, or if you've had some tests and they come back with bad news, or sometimes that bad news is, for example, it might come back and say that there is no reason. And actually, you've almost been craving a reason, because then you can do something about it. There might be sadness. You've heard that a friend is pregnant, or you've seen yet another announcement. But when is it more than sadness? When you look at the difference between sadness and depression, and bear with me when I say depression, but I do want you to see a difference here. When you look at sadness will lift after some time, while depression stays, and depression lingers, and it affects other areas of your life. So, and you can be mildly depressed. So I want you to just stop for a moment. When I say that word, what is triggering? What are you thinking as I'm saying this? So let's look at what signs of depression include, okay? And I know it's a hugely emotive word, and I'm very aware of what I'm saying, but I want you to bear with me on this. When we look at depression and we look at the definitions in health information and so on, it is sadness that lasts for weeks or months. It's not transient. It doesn't lift and move. It's not a bout of the blues. It lasts for weeks or months. Feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, frequent crying or tearing up, frequently irritated or intolerant of others around you, and specifically people who perhaps you used to enjoy being around. A lack of motivation, struggling to get work done, either at home or at work. Difficulty sleeping, and this can be that you're sleeping too much or that you're unable to sleep well at all. You have difficulty with eating. You could either be overeating or you could be experiencing a low appetite. And you can struggle with experiencing pleasure in life. And this can include a loss of libido. And this is something I've talked about before. We know the cortisol as an effect of stress and low mood and worry and anxiety can affect your libido hormonally, definitely. So just stop and think about those. You don't have to be experiencing all of those for this to be considered more than sadness. Some of these can be more than sadness. And how is it affecting your everyday life? We know that when you are stressed, when you are anxious, when you are worried, that your fertility in itself can be affected, and that's a huge vicious circle. So I just want to take some time to acknowledge a difference between sadness and something else, and why it's really, really important to notice this in yourself. But also, let's have a look at what's happening. Let's have a look at the process of how these emotions change and perhaps what you can start to do to support yourself. So you might start off trying to get pregnant with a relaxed approach. It might be that you've just decided to stop using protection for a while. But how long does that last, that relaxed approach? Or how long did it last for you? How much was in the back of your mind ever? Was there a worry? And then perhaps when things aren't happening, you might move into looking into things more. You might start monitoring ovulation. You're scheduling sex. You're living in these 2-week intervals of life. Your whole month is divided into these 2-week intervals, sometimes actually into 3 intervals. So you have your bleed, which you're just desperate to get out of the way because then you can start planning forward. Then you've got ovulation, and then you've got your 2-week wait. And you almost start to live your life. Every month arrives, you are completely and utterly aware of what is 9 months away. Because every time you get your period, that is a new month of planning, a new month of thinking, well, if we get pregnant this month, then we'd be looking at having a baby in August. If we get pregnant this month, then that would mean that our baby would be born in September. It carries on through like that, and it's just building and building and building. You might start to blame either yourself or your partner or the system. This feelings of anger and worry can get bigger. You might have self-blame that you've perhaps think you've waited too long, or you're blaming the system because they're making you wait too long to get answers. And then the emotions that you're feeling, this roller coaster can be, or it can be more consistent, but the sadness and the anger and the jealousy and the despair and the questioning and this sense of fairness is huge. And you know that stress is key, and you know that this could well be negatively affecting your fertility, but how can you just relax? And I think one of the big things that I certainly see with the people I'm having free calls with and the people that I'm working with is this absolute feeling that just need somebody to tell you what to do. Because there is so much information and the overwhelm is huge, and it seems to be conflicting in different areas as well. And also there's this real feeling of just not being heard and of not being supported. And that is huge, and I would definitely concur with that. What you tend to also see is that the focus shifts from having a baby. And I'm not sure at what time that happens in your journey, and maybe this hasn't happened with you. Maybe it has. Maybe just take a moment and stop and think about it. At what point did you, or has it, if it has, I'm rambling, I apologise. At what point perhaps have you moved from thinking about having a baby to thinking about getting pregnant? Maybe it was always about getting pregnant. And it becomes this very narrow, intense parameter, just getting pregnant. And when we are thinking about getting pregnant, we are thinking about, if we start to schedule and monitor, ovulation and sperm. That's kind of all really there is in terms of what we're told about, because we completely misunderstand in many ways because we're not given sufficient information. I've said many times before, the talk at school, the information we're given is that it's so easy to get pregnant and potentially it could ruin your life if it happens. But we live in this fear. We know how easy it is, and all we have to do is to stop using protection. And yes, we might know it will take a few months, but it never prepares us for what we then face. So as you've heard me say before, my passion is that you have this information, but I want you to just slightly shift your focus momentarily, if it feels comfortable to you, to focus on having a baby. Not getting pregnant, but having a baby. Now, I know that can be hugely confronting because we have this not getting our hopes up and not wanting to tempt fate, and it might be being too painful. I don't want you to think about the emotional aspects of having a baby right now. I want you to think about the health of that baby. What do you need to do to really ensure and support a healthy baby? Yes, it comes back to that basic ingredients of egg and sperm, and the health of those is integral, and that is not health that is tested at any deep level. So that's important. So when we start to shift our focus to, right, okay, this isn't about getting pregnant, this is about a healthy baby. Because we know also that once we are pregnant, one of the huge stresses is, what if I lose the baby? And of course, this is even more of an issue if you have experienced loss before, because you're just almost anticipating. It's your next step of worry, isn't it? There's the getting pregnant, there's the staying pregnant, having a healthy baby. But I just invite you to stop. Where is your thought process? Is it in getting pregnant? Is it in having a baby? If it's not in having a baby, what is it that's stopping you? What is the emotion that comes up there? It becomes very fear-based. The getting pregnant is fear-based. The staying pregnant is fear-based. And these are our tigers. You know, you've heard me talk about tigers before. It's a big part of what I do. Now, I work with couples on the physical and the psychological and emotional. And I think that is hugely key. Yes, there is interaction with all. Having an action plan, having an understanding of what to do to support your body, not just to get pregnant, but to produce a healthy baby, is really, really key. And understanding those nuances and having that action plan can be, for many, enough. It honestly can, because it's an understanding, a real aha moment. But increasingly, what I see is a need for the psychological and emotional support. So we look with my clients at identifying their fears, fears that they may not even know are existed, these tigers, this underlying fear that is causing that reaction within you, and then reducing their effect, taming those tigers. You know, the power of thoughts is so incredible. Your brain cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. But this isn't just relaxing. This is getting to a point of reducing the fear, of reducing the effects of your emotions, of moving out of that depression, of using techniques that we would use with a depression ordinarily, but it is not just relaxing. And increasingly, it's not just fertility. And after so many calls and sessions with clients, we find that their fear is actually something that surprised them completely. And it's important that we work on taming those. So I started off talking about the difference between sadness, and it is an emotive word, but I just need you to see the difference between sadness and depression. This is a traumatic experience for so many people, and it has a huge effect on their psychological and emotional well-being while they are trying to get pregnant. And that can stay. That can have effects later. It is so important that when you are looking at improving your fertility, that you're looking at the whole picture. Yes, the physical, and understanding that is key. The psychological and the emotional factors are huge. And this isn't just fertility, is it? I'm recording this in December 2020. We, for a long time, have been in a state of huge emotion, of huge uncertainty. And it might not just be fertility, it's other issues that affect fertility, and fertility affects other issues. You're into this cycle, almost this never-ending cycle. But I invite you to just take a moment. Just take a moment. You're okay. Your body is an incredible, incredible thing. It can do incredible, incredible things. And your mind can support that. But your mind can also get in the way of that. So a physical, psychological, and emotional approach is key. What is important is that you are heard, that you are supported, and that you have the right tools for you. And know that there is support, out there, but the support has to be right for you. And I would love to be able to give you a step-by-step list of what to do, but it's different for everybody. We do fall into the same kind of categories and areas for this. You need to understand more about your fertility generally, but about your fertility specifically, and what is evident, not from the narrow parameter tests that you're perhaps having, but more about the signs and symptoms in your body that can give you real clarity in this. It is helpful to understand your thoughts, understand these fears, and look at ways that we can move towards changing them. They could be from limiting beliefs. It could be very reactionary to where you are now. We need to look at the relationship, the two of you together. We need to look at what thoughts you're not allowing yourself to think and what thoughts are repeated and coming all the time. And these are your tigers. So I work, as I've told you before, part of what I do is we start to tame tigers. And I am excited to tell you that there is a digital pack and it is on its way. And if you want to know more about that, the best place to hear about that is on my email list, which you can join at fertilityrewire.com. This isn't about just relaxing. I say that time and time again. Of course, relaxation is key. And when the tiger's gone, relaxing is helpful in that moment. But we need to stop the tigers having this much effect. So if you want to know anything more about your tigers, about whether you are in sadness or whether you feel that depression is more key, if you want an action plan, if you want a way forward, if you just want to chat, then you can always reach out and have a chat with me. And you can get that link via the website, fertilityrewire.com. It will also be in the show notes. But for now, what I want you to know is that I hear you. This is horrible, but You don't have to do this alone. Take care. You've been listening to the Fertility Rewire podcast with me, Kat Stevens. If you wanted to find any further details, then you can check out the website, fertilityrewire.com, or find me on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest at Fertility Rewire.